It's a great pleasure to be joined today by Jeremy Scheinwald, who, speaking of smart people, is one of the smartest admissions consultants in this industry. He is the founder and president of MBA Mission, which, as many of you know, is a top MBA admissions consulting firm that helps candidates get into the most competitive schools. And Jeremy is an expert in terms of communications and all aspects of admissions. In fact, true to his background as a communicator, he served for many years as a speechwriter and to the ambassador of Israel, for the ambassador of Israel to the United States, and has been actively writing in many media publications. He's written several books as well, and is just crafted a lot of skills around helping candidates to write great messages about their own candidacy and convincing admissions councils to accept them. So, Jeremy, it's really great to have you here today. Welcome to the session, and thanks for leading it for us.
Well, thank you for that kind introduction, Eric, and it's always great to be back here, and we love partnering with Beat the GMAT, and love speaking to your audience, which is remarkably international, and the breadth of the site is pretty amazing. Pardon me. So, yeah, we're here today to talk about long-term MBA application planning, and it's a topic that I really enjoy because it lets us hopefully get to some candidates early and hopefully get them on the right track and ensure that they're focusing their energies on improving their profiles rather than worrying about things that aren't necessarily that productive. And so for us, we like to sort of get people on that right track early, and that actually starts with, there we go, get used to my mouse here, that actually starts with destroying admissions myths. And we actually wrote an admissions myths destroyed series with our friends at Beat the GMAT. I think there were 52 pieces, and you can probably still find them. I'm sure you can still find them on the Beat the GMAT site. And I wanted to go through a few that we find, again, there are 50 of them, we're definitely not going to go through all of them, but go through a few of them that I think can help candidates get in the right headspace. Then we'll talk about creating my long-term plan. I think the myths are part of creating that long-term plan. And then we'll talk a tiny bit about MBA Mission. We'll do some Q&A. So without further ado, here we are, admissions myths destroyed. So we find that a lot of candidates really worry that the admissions committee wants a specific type of candidate. And these myths will abound from year to year, and people will say, well, I heard that Kellogg's a marketing school, so I have to become a marketing candidate. Or Chicago is a quantitative school, or Wharton is a finance school, or NYU is a finance school, or whatever it is. And I'm going to try to do everything to shape my application and to shape my long-term plan in order to pander to what the school wants. And that's exactly the opposite of what you should be doing. And so I love the fact that Stanford's director of admissions, Derek Bolton, who is I don't know, maybe I can dub him the most selective man in the world. He is the most selective MBA man in the world. He is the head of he's the head of the admissions committee at Stanford, which is the most selective school in the world. They select in the single digits on a yearly basis. And who better authority to go to than Derek, who says, because we want to discover who you are, resist the urge to package yourself in order to come across in a way you think Stanford wants. Such attempts simply blur our understanding of who you are and what you can accomplish. We want to hear your genuine voice throughout the essays that you write, and this is the time to think carefully about your values, your passions, your hopes, and your dreams. And he might be talking directly to the essays here, but in terms of shaping your application over the next couple of months, and there still is indeed time to do that, don't try to conform to something. Try to become your own individual, because the admissions committee wants distinctiveness. They don't want a homogeneous candidate. They want to get the individualistic aspects and find those special people. So get into that headset, that head space from the beginning. Okay. Next. We find that a lot of candidates worry about where they went to school. And they say, oh, well, there's no point in me even embarking along this process because I didn't go to an Ivy League school in the first place, so I'm not going to get into a top MBA program. And if you look, 500 institutions have been represented at HBS, Harvard Business School, in its last 3 classes. 151 institutions have been represented, were represented in Stanford's class of 2011. And we always sort of ask this rhetorically, and every once in a while someone says, yes, I know someone who went to Fondasso, Getio, Vargas, or University of Calgary or University of British Columbia. But the idea is that most people don't, and don't think of them as feeder schools for these institutions. But sure enough, individuals from these schools, some of whom you probably wouldn't reference, wouldn't spring to mind if someone said, "Hey, let's play word association." Top feeder schools for Harvard. You wouldn't say University of Calgary, and yet there are people from that institution at Harvard Business School. So you shouldn't worry about your institution. You should worry about your academic performance. Your performance trumps pedigree, and we'll talk about that in some of the slides that come in the next section. Similarly, I think people worry that alumni get them in. They say, "Oh, I better go out there and meet some alumni because it's really important that I know alumni. I need that recommendation in order to get into Harvard or Wharton, and I don't know any alumni." And it's the same thing. You don't need to know alumni to get you into business school. You need to be a strong candidate with an interesting profile. We'll talk about that in the coming slides. We actually spoke. When I was at Harvard Business School, I went, met with the admissions office, and a member of their admissions staff said to me, "I can't tell you who it is, but it's an internationally renowned individual of the stature of, say, an Al Gore. It's not Al Gore." And they said that he writes, 8, 9, 10 recommendations a year, and that that he calls them and says, I can't believe you didn't let in my candidates. You don't have a right to 1% of the class. So again, they want that diversity. It's not just a feeder school on the way in, and it's not just a confirmation society on the way in either. Again, you get you in. People tend to worry also, I have no managerial experience, is that going to hold me back? You don't need management experience to get into business school. Most applicants are in the early stages of their careers. If you look at bankers and consultants, 2-3-year analyst programs, generally they have no staff. They might get to the point where they're mentors for someone who's junior to them, but they're not going to be rising to great heights on the org chart. The schools understand the nature of certain jobs and certain companies. They know there are flat organizations out there. What they want to know is that you've gained responsibility in your job, not necessarily a title. If you've got a title, fantastic. If you've got a promotion, great. But they're gonna look at your resume. They're gonna read your recommendations. They're gonna hear the things you say, and they're gonna come to an understanding about whether you're a competent individual. And of course, you can show management leadership outside of work. Again, a little bit of teaser for the coming slides. So I have no managerial experience, not the end of the world, because the MBA teaches management. Finally, our last myth, and again, I think Eric just posted a link. There are many, many others out there. I will change my candidacy this week. Think of your candidacy as an ocean liner, not a scooter. Think, it takes a lifetime to shape a candidacy for a top business school. You can't just say, okay, next week I'm going to become this candidate. It doesn't work that way. If there's one magic thing that people could do, everyone will be doing it. And people call me all the time around this time of year, and they say, "Oh, I'm late to this application game. What's the one thing I should do in the next 2 weeks in order to make myself the best candidate I could possibly be?" And if you're not there yet, and you're trying to turn it around in 2 weeks, maybe you should look to next year. And again, just focus on creating your best application if you're not prepared to look towards next year. But don't think that there's some sort of quick fix. Candidacies take time to develop, and that's really what we're here to talk about today. We're here to talk about creating your long-term plan. So, what are the schools looking for? I think it's not as simple as there being a recipe. The schools aren't looking for one thing, but they're going to evaluate a few different aspects of your profile, and they're going to look and say, okay, academic abilities. We want to make sure that this individual can handle the rigors of our curriculum. So we're going to look at your GMAT scores, of course, and we're going to try to understand the story, have you taken it once, have you taken it twice, what is the story that's told by your performance on the quant side versus the verbal side. They're going to look at your scores, they're going to try to understand what's going on. We'll talk more about GMAT in a moment. They're also going to look at your undergraduate grades and the rigor of your program. So, not all 3.5s are equal. A 3.5 in political science, that's the discipline I was in, not nearly as impressive as a 3.5 in, in engineering, which is, considered a very impressive grade. So they're going to look at your grades, they're going to look at the trends in your grades, they're going to look at the academic rigor, and they're going to try to figure out whether you can manage the program. Additionally, they're going to look at things like the CFA, the CAIA, different designations, where they're going to say, okay, maybe this is another indication this individual can manage the program. But you'd be surprised to find out that in our conversations with admissions officers, most admissions officers have said to us they feel that about 70% of all applicants, they can have confidence that about 70% of all applicants can manage the first year course load. So academic abilities alone, it's not something that is that you're just going to get in because you can manage the coursework. Obviously, many people have the academic abilities, and so they start to move on. And they say, okay, leadership experience and potential. I already mentioned professional trajectory. You can show your leadership experience and potential through your community activities, through personal experiences, even through your career ambitions. If you've got something interesting to say, the schools are they're not just looking at dollar signs. They're not looking for a specific job. Again, they're really interested in diversity. But let's say that you really knocked the cover off the ball, to use an American saying. Let's say that you've got great grades, a great GMAT score, and you've been promoted early. Is that enough? No, you need to have interpersonal skills. There are lots of people, again, think Harvard, 9,000, 10,000 applications for 900 spots. And lots of people who have strong undergraduate grades and a great GMAT score and have been promoted. They're going to want to know that you have the interpersonal skills to succeed both in their community. You're going to be a good learning team member, be a good classmate, be good socially, but also that you've got the interpersonal skills necessary to succeed as a business person. And that's going to be reflected in your interview, your essays, your recommendation. And then they're also going to want to understand that you have a certain, je ne sais quoi, a certain indescribable characteristic. It's not just diversity, meaning ethnic or gender diversity. It's not international experience, meaning that you have to have worked in a unique country in order to get in. But they're going to want to understand that your life itself offers, you through your life are offering the class something interesting. And most people will have the first three. Most people, first two wrapped up. A lot of people have the third with interpersonal skills. And that last one is a very difficult one to get to. But a lot of people get the first four and fail to kind of come through and say to the school, hey, I'm a really solid fit with your program. A lot of people don't get to know their target programs terribly well, and they don't make that argument for fit. So we'll talk about that as well in this presentation. So what are your next steps? Well, prepare for the GMAT. Does anyone here, I think there's a chat window here, I'll try to see. Does anyone here know when the, maybe I shouldn't venture into the chat window here. There we are. Anyone here know when the essays come out each year? I'm seeing a few people saying no. Okay. Usually in August. I think I'm not seeing the full chat window. I'm trying to expand my chat window. August to September, I'm seeing. July, someone says. Usually not mid-June. I'm still not. There we go. Xavier, as I scroll up, I'm seeing Xavier saying, pardon me, saying May, and that's right. The essays come out in May. Effectively, admission season begins in May. And if you haven't decided that you're going to take the GMAT yet, then take a GMAT class yet, then certainly now is the time to get started. Because if you're going to take a Manhattan GMAT class, and you were lucky enough to start, to enroll tomorrow, and you were to start tomorrow, which is highly unlikely because I think they're actually sold out because they're popular classes. But if you were to get into a class and start studying for that GMAT class, then it's a 9-week class. There's some time to study. Basically, you're already looking at an April or May test, which means that you're going to be taking your test just as the essays start coming out. But you're not late. I don't want to fearmonger, but now is definitely the time. If you're planning to take a test, definitely the time is now to enroll, to take a class. I apologize. Take a class and enroll, learn, and take that, and set a date for that test. It might not go as well as you'd planned, and the GMAT is actually a forgiving test. The admissions officers will take their value maximizers. They will take your highest GMAT score. That you are better off if you have a 550, 550, 750, rather than if you have a 720, 720, 720. They're not averaging your scores. The GMAT is a computer adaptive test. Without getting into it, your best score is not, it would be statistically impossible for you to consistently answer questions at that level, and thus the admissions committee understands that your highest test is reflective of your aptitude. So they allow you to take the test more than once. So if it doesn't go well that first time, now maybe you're looking at a May-June test. If it doesn't go well the second time, now you're looking at a June-July test. So it's time for you to get moving on the GMAT. I can't be more emphatic about that. What is a good target score? People will worry about that GMAT target score forever. A good target score, a comfortable score, a score where the GMAT effectively goes away, is a 700 score with an 80th percentile on both sides of the test. That doesn't mean that you must get that score to get into business school. The average GMAT score for a top 10 school is about a 710. The nature of an average is such that some people are above average and some people are below average. But if you want a worry-free score, I would say a 700 with an 80th percentile on both sides of the test is something where you really don't have to worry. Let me just move my slide here. Okay, I think I'm learning my mouse as we go. Okay, so what about your other steps in terms of your academic profile? Well, maybe you're recovering from a poor academic performance. A lot of people didn't know they'd be in this position at this point, and maybe wish they had tried a little bit harder. Maybe you're trying to establish academic competencies. Maybe you were a poli-sci student like I was, and you never had to take any sort of quantitative class or any sort of business class. Maybe you're worried and you're conservative. Maybe you're saying, I'm not so sure that I'm going to do well on a standardized test on the quant side, but I know myself. I know if I can sit down and study, I can do well, and so maybe I can show my academic competencies through a couple of other classes. If you fall into any of those buckets, you should be looking at taking a winter or spring course, and most winter courses are starting now. So if you're in that group where you've got a poor GPA or just have never taken any math classes or are worried about your quant side, definitely look to taking a winter course, I would hope, because a spring course, again, if you're taking a course that starts in April or May, you're right in the middle of the admission season as you're taking a class. And I would say, if you have the time, take 2 classes. And those 2 classes will help you. You have to earn A's. This is not if you earn B's or B minuses or C's, it's not going to send any message on your behalf. You're not going to have that opportunity to say, look, I've changed. I'm not that 2.9 student from years ago. So get A's or a minimum maybe an A minus, but hopefully A's, and send a message to the admissions committee that you have those innate abilities. Calculus, statistics, economics are the preferable courses. To a lesser degree, finance and accounting. Calculus, statistics, and economics say, I have raw intellectual horsepower. I actually have analytical skills. Finance and accounting you can sort of learn a skill in that regard, whereas calculus, in particular, is a measure of your intellectual horsepower. So I would focus on those if you can. However, if you're concerned, you say there's no way I'm getting that A in calculus, you're better off getting that A in economics, finance, accounting. What constitutes a good GPA? I would say a good GPA is about a 3.5. That's around the average for the top 10, top 15 schools. Again, the nature of an average is such that some people are above average and some people are below average. We've seen lots of 3.1s get in. We've seen lots of, to a lesser extent, I think under 3 it starts to get more difficult, but certainly not impossible. We've certainly seen our share of 2.9, 2.8s get in, but 3.5 and you're starting to look safe. So if you have a 3.5 and a 700 GMAT score with an 80th percentile on both sides, you're probably okay in terms of your stats. So let's make sure you get there. What are my next steps? Engaging in community and leadership activities. It's certainly not too late to do that. If you think about it, I probably should have had a little note beside this slide, but it's January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October. You've got 9, 10 months. It depends on how you count January, and in order to develop your track record. And the school is not looking for a record of hours served. This is not community service like you're sentenced that by a judge. They're not going to ask you to document your hours. They're going to want to see impact. And so, again, lots of people have their academic life. Lots of people have their professional life. Here's a chance where through adding some community activities, you can say, okay, I have another story to tell if I've had impact. And to digress for a second, the successful applicants are those who can keep the reader learning when they write their essays. If an admissions officer is still engaged on that 4th essay because they're learning something new about you, that's a great sign. That's a really excellent position to be in, because a lot of people can't get there. And so community service enables you to keep adding stories and to keep engaging your reader. So it's not too late. We had a candidate a couple of years ago who did some volunteer work. Unfortunately, he had a family member who was ill and did some volunteer work with a hospital, and with the hospital where his family member was being treated, and started doing some fundraising and thought of a novel fundraising concept and rolled it out. And it was really successful. He raised a lot of money for the hospital, and then the hospital asked him to be on their charitable board, not their hospital board, but their charitable board. And it was an amazing story. And he said to us, I'm just worried that the admissions committee is going to say, he only did it for 2 or 3 months, as if his success should have taken longer in order to impress them. And we said to him, it's not the amount of time that you spent in this story. You didn't do this to impress the admissions committee. You did this because you were committed to it. And that commitment is what they want to see. They were going to appreciate his entrepreneurship and his commitment in this regard. So don't shy away from this because you think that they're going to view you cynically. Just make sure you're doing something that is meaningful to you. If you engage in something that is not meaningful to you, no story will develop. If you don't like the elderly, there's no point in volunteering at a senior citizens home. If you happen to really enjoy the elderly, volunteer with a senior citizens home and see where that experience takes you, as you'll proactively identify needs within that society. I can't tell you exactly what story will pop up. It will happen naturally. So it isn't a question of having enough leadership. It's not like if you have 4 stories or 2 stories or 1 story. It's the quality of your experience that you want to focus on. And actually, I'm going to say one other thing on this slide here, which is that leadership activities don't necessarily have to be with a formal organization. If you are a quasi-Big Brother to the kid down the hall, it doesn't matter whether it's associated officially with Big Brothers. Again, the schools want to understand your impact. Similarly, you can show that you're a leader outside of your community, even at work. If you're the head of the analyst morale committee, or you started the environmental committee at the office, that is, again, they're not looking for puritanically looking to attach you to an organization. They are looking to see that you're an impact player and that you're not just sort of putting your head down and getting your own work done. Advancing personal goals. This is another important one, and a lot of people say, personal goals, really? Is that something that I should really be focusing on at this point? And the answer is yes. The answer is this is an awesome opportunity for you to own your story in a way that others can't. And so, people say, okay, but this is business school. Are they really going to care about my personal life? And the answer is absolutely. They want to know that you are motivated and engaged in all aspects of your life. They want to know that that other guy who's at JP Morgan with you, he goes home and he goes to sleep at 10 at night, and you get online in the previous slide with your community activities, and you're mentoring a kid in a far-flung place, and in your personal life, you just completed your 5th triathlon, whatever it might be. Now, I'm not saying, you see here we've got the CFA, running a marathon, getting a publication done, learning languages. These are just broad categories and examples. I'm not saying that you should go out there and start studying for the CFA or start trying to run a marathon tomorrow. That's not the point. You might hate running. I don't want to have a couple hundred of you who are seemingly on this call right now. Starting to train for triathlons or for marathons tomorrow. That's not the point. The point is, if you've always wanted to run a marathon and you're in good shape to do it, go out and do it. If you've got a publication on your desk, you're an amateur poet, as we finally came across one of those quite recently. An individual's got a couple of poems published. If you're an amateur poet and you've always wanted to try getting your poems published, get them published. Don't start writing poetry tomorrow. The point is, if you have things on your desk on your mind, on your desk that you want to get done, just make sure you get them done before you apply. Accelerate your timeline. And simple things, you can't make these things happen, but talking about it's a unique opportunity to own your story. We had a candidate a few years ago who, years and years ago, and this can be a slightly disguised example, he went out and he learned a language in order to translate a book that was written by his grandfather. His family had moved away from that country years, 2 generations later. He was learning a language in order to read a book that his grandfather, who had passed away, had written. This is a story that no one else can tell. Now, you can't go out and create that experience. It's just something that happened, but that individual could at least expedite the completion of that book. So, the world of opportunities you have. If there's something that's just sitting there that's been nagging you, certainly get it done. This is absolutely relevant. And then, what are your next steps? Get to know your target programs. Certainly, now the clock is ticking. I think that's our next slide. I think I had to scoop myself, but the clock is ticking. The class visit programs usually open up in October, and that's the time when first-round applications are due. So if you are handing in your application on October the 5th and class visits start on October the 10th, you're not going to get a chance to visit your school's class. So now is really the time in the next couple of months, as the class visit programs are still open, to go visit those schools and to get a sense for them. Your MBA is a huge investment, and to the extent that you can, you should be going and sitting in on classes and making sure that you fit that environment quite well. You don't want to get to the point where you haven't done your homework and somehow you've managed to find your way in, and you're spending a couple of $100,000 in terms of opportunity cost, like lost salary and tuition and living expenses, and discovering that that program isn't for you. It also can help you in the application process as you convey that fit to your target school via essays. So, just looking at 2 different programs here, you'll see, we'll go to the next slide actually and you'll see it, but these are a whole bunch of metrics that through which you can evaluate your school. You can say, look, some of these things are quite important to me. I'd like to be in an intimate environment. I'd like to be in a small class size. I'd like to be in a college town where I'm going to reinforce that intimacy. I'm going to have a variety I'm going to have my classmates who are really internally focused on our community. And I'm not going to. I'd prefer that to a bigger campus where it's in an urban setting where people are going to live all around the city, and they're going to have a lot of their old friends or family in in New York or Chicago. They're going to have a lot of connections, and school won't be their sole focus. Or others will say college town is too much for me. It's too much intimacy. I need a little bit more distance. All I'm saying is these are things to think about. As you make your choices. Rankings come and go, but the rest of this, the location, your class size, the teaching method, the case method versus the lecture method, there's a huge difference in those experiences. Your core curriculum, mandatory core. At Harvard, the entire first-year curriculum is mandatory. You have no choice. Some people might find that comforting. They might not feel ready to make choices. Others might say, I'd like a little more flexibility. At Chicago, you're making your choices from day one. I'm not going to go through all this. We do a presentation on school selection that actually goes through all these metrics and more. And we'd love to have you join join us for that presentation in the future, and hopefully we can do one with Beat the GMAT. But these are definitely things to think about. Start doing your homework now. Get to know your target programs now. How can you learn about your target programs? Well, admissions blogs, certainly. Chat boards, of course. You're already on one. Our blog. I mean, there's so many so many resources out there. We have our insiders guides. There are Q&A sessions with admissions officers. And again, visit campuses now. Meet with alumni at your firm. Meet with current students. A lot of the schools will offer you opportunities through their ambassadorial programs to go, and they've got students that will just connect with you. It's part of sort of a volunteer admissions program that the schools will ask students to participate in to help market the school. And it is absolutely crucial. We do a variety of free Ding reviews every year, which are reviews of applications for people who did not get into their target schools, any of them, and did not work with us. We do about 20 a year. Well, if you're in that group, you can watch our website in the coming months. We'll announce that you can submit your application, and we will pick them at random, and we'll review yours. And I would say, the biggest mistake we see is probably candidates offering generic language about the schools that they want to go to. So schools say, why do you want to attend our school? And people say, oh, you've got a wonderful program, it's really great, it's got a wonderful reputation, I really like XYZ alumni, as opposed to saying, I have already engaged with and understand the resources you possess, and I understand how those resources are going to enable me to be successful in my career. So if you were to say, I want to be an entrepreneur when I graduate from Columbia, you wouldn't just say, oh, I think Columbia is great, it's got an awesome entrepreneurial program. You would want to say, I would look forward to the opportunity to test my ideas via the entrepreneurial sounding board, and would seek out the advice of Professor XYZ, who is engaged in the entrepreneurial sounding board, and then would refine my idea and apply to enter the Lang Center for Entrepreneurship, where I would nurture that idea under the watchful eye, ... I'm making it up, although those are actual resources, but the idea is that they're going to say, this guy really knows why he wants to be here, and we can be confident that if we give him an offer, that he's both going to accept that offer, which is important to an admissions officer, and that he's going to fit. He'll be happy here. And we only have a certain number of spots to give away in our class, and we want to make sure that we have happy consumers. So definitely get to know your target programs in depth. So again, looking at two different programs, I actually touched on a little bit about Chicago Booth here. Number 1 in Business Week, talk number 14. I think if you graduate from either, you're going to have a very bright career ahead of you. Chicago, people will live in I'm drawing a blank, Hyde Park. Sorry, there we go, Hyde Park. But they'll live in near the Millennium Park too. They'll live in Wrigleyville. They'll live near my sister in Bucktown. At Tuck, it's a small town. It's not. There aren't 8 million people like in Chicago. There are a couple thousand, a couple tens of thousands, and everyone lives on campus. So everyone goes to Tuck together, right? Tuck isn't drawing its class from Hanover, New Hampshire. It's drawing its class from around the world, and everyone's going there with the intent to create a community together. Whereas in Chicago, you have some people who are interested in being active parts of the community, and others who've been in Chicago for years since they graduated from college and have good friends and go to school and participate in what they like and don't participate in other activities. And it's not to suggest that one is better than the other. It's just that one speaks to you. Tuck is less than half the size of Chicago. Tuck has a pretty strong core curriculum. Chicago, you're choosing all your classes from day one. That might be a lot of responsibility for you. You might welcome that responsibility. We're just trying to draw out the distinctions. So think very, very carefully about which schools you're applying to, because you want to have good fits for yourself, and you want to be able to convey that fit to the admissions committee. Finally, just a few simple steps. Connect with and evaluate recommenders. If you have something that's long in your past that's still relevant, you're in the military, and you've since moved on to a career in investment banking, it's not, you don't want to call your evaluator, you don't want to call your recommender in October at the first round deadlines and say, I need 5 letters from you. You haven't heard from me in several years. Also, if you're in an organization that sends a lot of people to business schools, you might want to connect with past candidates and do some diligence and say, was my boss, your former boss, helpful in this process? Did he meet deadlines? Preparing your resume, keeping your resume current. I'd love to do a session on resumes as well. I think there's a real art. There is definitely an art to a resume, but getting your resume into shape. It's why worry about doing that at the very last moment when you're working on essays. In October. Why not get that up to date now? That way you can change the last couple of bullet points and make a few simple adjustments. If you're planning to switch careers, maybe you want to conduct some informational interviews or job shadow in order to show that you're serious about your career, especially if your career is a pretty radical change. You want to show that you really know what you're doing and know what that career is about. Another big mistake we see candidates make, candidates say, oh, I want to be a consultant, or I want to be a banker. What kind of consultant? A strategy consultant, operations consultant, a tech consultant, a marketing consultant, an admissions consultant. There are so many different kinds of consultants out there. You have to be able to say, look, I know what I'm doing. I am a serious applicant here. Firm sponsorship. We've had candidates where firm sponsorship, that process has taken a year and a half. If you want to get firm sponsorship, now is the time to start engaging in that conversation. It's tough to get right now, but we've definitely helped candidates even pioneer and create that program at their firm. Go and talk to HR and valued employees. They'll say, you know what, we don't have a program like that, but we'd like to develop one for you. This is a conversation that you need to have now, as opposed to when you're walking out the door saying, oh, by the way, can you pay for my MBA? Maybe I'll come back. Not going to help you. And then start your brainstorming process. We're not saying that you should be starting, every day, writing down all of your ideas. But as you think about the things you've done in life, jot them down. As you remember a funny memory, as someone gives you some feedback about who you are, as a professional, just jot these things down. In our complete start to finish guide, we have a brainstorming questionnaire, and for those of you who have it. For those of you who have it, it forces you to think in terms of beginnings, middles, and ends of stories, and it's a great resource to enable you to start accumulating some ideas. But even if you're just jotting down on the paper, even if you don't have it, and you're just jotting your ideas down on the paper, just remembering that way you're not saying, okay, I'm done with my GMAT, the essays are out, I have to start writing, I'm going to try and get my whole life down in the next couple of hours and then pick from those stories. You're in a much more comfortable spot if you've just been slowly keeping an inventory. So this whole session is really just about time management. And why is time management important? Because if you're a motivated applicant and you get that GMAT done in May, and you get those classes done in May, and you're looking at first-round applications and for those or early decision applications, and you're able to manage that time. You've got your applications are going to start start appearing in mid-May, and you'll be able to work on them slowly but surely, and you'll be able to get your applications done in the first round. And all things being equal, you're better off applying in the first round. It's not like that you're suddenly uncompetitive in the second round, but if you apply in the first round, you have a imperceptibly better chance, and you'll get your decisions back earlier, and the entire process will be a lot more fun for you. If you don't take my advice and you start taking the GMAT and it doesn't work out for you and you're looking at a September GMAT, you might not even know what schools to apply to. You might need that frame of reference as you're looking at your round 2 applications, where you must get those round 2 applications done in January. You don't have any leeway. Here, okay, so maybe I get busy, I get 4 of them done now, I'll get 2 done in the next round. Here you don't have that luxury. The third round is generally, it's not impossible, but the third round is generally a far more difficult round. Most of the spots have been given away, and if you're starting your GMAT in September and you're not listening to this to what we're talking about, you're definitely not going to be able to handle your work, your GMAT, taking a class, working on your community activities. Whereas here, if you use that time well between now and May, leisurely study for your GMAT, manage your professional life, engage in your community activities, you might be able to lay off a little bit and say, okay, in August, I'm going to focus on my applications. So, I'll take a few weeks off from some of my community endeavors, and it won't make a difference. My track record is strong. I can focus on my applications. So this is really, time management is really crucial. We really want to ensure that you're managing your time. So over the next 4.5 months, this is a lot. Take a GMAT class and the GMAT, bolster your academic profile, get those community activities going, advance those personal goals, visit campuses. You can see there's a lot to do. Meet with alumni and current students, connect with and evaluate those recommenders, get that resume going, conduct informational interviews or job shadow if that's appropriate, and see if you can get firm sponsorship. And those are the big ones, and that will enable you to manage your time very, very well and just focus on applying to business school from May to January, or even better, May to October. So a tiny bit about us, that's our presentation, a tiny bit about us at MBA Mission. We are, as Eric said at the beginning, everyone flows from me. My background as a speechwriter. Everyone in MBA Mission is an elite communicator. So you might, if you go to our website and check out our staff, you'll see that Lynn Maloney was a managing editor at Inc and Fast Company magazines, and she she went to Harvard Business School. She's not on staff because she went to Harvard Business School. She's on staff because she knows how to help people communicate. The admissions process is one of communication. We are not just a website. We're a real firm. We have real training. Our internal training conference is coming up May 6th and 7th. We actually vet our consultants and train them. We have staff meetings. We have paid mentorship programs. We are a real firm. We are not a website where there's a figurehead and there are a bunch of part-time people who are working at McKinsey trying to pay off their student loans. That's not us. Our team is on our site. You can check out our bios. Those are the people who will work with you. We're not afraid to have our team out there. We have a lot of external validation. Manhattan GMAT used to work with 10 different admissions consulting firms and whittled it down to just us. And we really take that responsibility quite seriously. And we're already working for you. We like to prove ourselves to our candidates through seminars like this, through books that we've written. You can come to our blog and see all of our a lot of our philosophies on admissions. We put it all out there. We're the world's largest admissions consulting firm, we believe, and that gives us the scale to invest in your experience because it enables us to train our consultants in a way that no one else really can. We guide most candidates through the complete start-to-finish process, which is a beginning-to-end admissions consulting service. You're in the early stages. I'm not going to go through this slide in much depth. We also offer hourly services, and we actually started a really interesting live and online class, actually taught by our instructors, and it's designed to get, it's a bit of a boot camp designed to get you right get you maybe 70% of the way there. You probably need the one-on-one or maybe the big blast, and then to do some work on your own after that. But it's designed to quickly accelerate the MBA application process, and we're very excited about that. We'll have more seminars starting in May. So here are a few members of our staff. Akiba Smith-Francis, Harvard Business School, Harvard College, the Kennedy School of Government, 3 degrees from Harvard. She worked for McKinsey, and she's been published in Forbes, among other places, and she's on our staff. She's not here because she went to Harvard. She's here because she is an amazing writer and editor, and is a full-time member of our staff. Monica Carpenter-Okra, Harvard Business School. She wrote a book on how to write successful Harvard Business School application essays with other members, actually with another member of our staff and other members of our Harvard Business School class. Just 2 examples. Angela Guido was a Siebel Scholar at Chicago Booth, and at Yale was the manager of the Yale Record, and actually researched a best-selling business book with a BCG consultant. So it really goes on and on. Jessica Sklar, again, Harvard College. We're not just recruiting out of Harvard. We've got others, but it certainly doesn't help. It doesn't hurt. So we have a full-time staff that I think can't be matched. With that, we offer a free consultation, and there are many of you on today's presentation. Feel free to take us up on this now if you want to talk about long-term planning, or you have any questions about your profile. If you want to wait and you want to get the GMAT done or something like that, and then you want to talk about your application in context, so be it. We're happy to do that then. But know that this is always available, that we always offer a free half hour, and it would be our absolute pleasure if many of you sign up for it tonight, as it tends to happen on these events. We might not get you scheduled right away, but we'd appreciate your patience, and hopefully, considering you're a long-term planner, you don't mind being a little bit patient too. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Eric, and I know there are a whole bunch of questions, and I'll take them for as long as Eric is happy to give them to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for the great presentation and the very useful information, and also just a quick message to the Beat the GMAT community members who are here today. Just want to say that I'm very proud of you for coming to this session, because already just by the fact of being here this early in the process, it says a lot about your preparedness, and I'm sure that you're going to reap some great dividends from all the preparation that comes out of this presentation and throughout this year. So Jeremy, we had a number of really, really great questions come in from our community, no surprise, and the first one is one I think that you're going to like. A couple of people have asked this, which is, when is the right time to start working with a consultant?
Yeah, that is a good question. I think that well, I mean, it depends on your needs. We actually have a long-term planning service that we offer, and we help you set milestones and engage some people earlier. So if you're looking a year out, we can help you develop your profile with a quarterly check-in, and we can set some milestones and goals for you. Generally speaking, if you're looking into the coming application cycle, so you're going to be applying next October, we typically work with candidates on a package basis. The more you put in, the more you get out. We start to see people a spike in our application, in our own clientele. Usually around March, we see a little tick up. Like February, I'll admit, it tends to be a little quiet, but March things pick up, and April, and by April, right before the essays are released in May, we start to see things get quite busy, where people think, okay, I know the season's beginning, I really want to get moving. So I would say you're on the early side, and you can make the most of your consultant relationship if you start moving in May. Now, there are lots of people who will sign up with us in July or August. It just puts a little more stress on you as an applicant. Then again, we're here, we see our value proposition as being twofold. We really help you put together the highest quality application possible. We help you communicate your story, your distinct story, to the admissions committee through the written word. That's unequivocal. But we also see ourselves as helping people manage their stress levels and make this process efficient for them. And so, if you just can't see yourself, you're busy at work, you just can't see yourself taking the GMAT, getting organized until August or even September, it's not the end of the world. We've helped people on short timelines, and we can definitely help you, reduce the stress in your own application process. So I would say if I were to create a window, May is early for the first round. I would say, June you're looking at on time, and then maybe July on time, and then August it starts to get a little more stressful.
Great. So plenty of time, folks, to start saving up for this investment. Since we are Beat the GMAT, I do want to have a GMAT question next. A couple of folks asked this question, which is, does taking the GMAT multiple times hurt your chances of admissions? And we're not talking about 2 or 3 times, but 3 or more times. Jeremy, do you have any thoughts on that?
I'm sorry, I think that my audio just cut out there. Can you repeat that, Eric?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So the question was whether you would hurt your chances of admissions if you take the GMAT 3 or more times. Is there, I guess, a diminishing return in taking the GMAT too many times?
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, your GMAT tells a story. If you're just beating your head against the wall and putting too much focus on that GMAT, then I think the admissions committee might at some point at your 4th go round, if you're stuck at the same level, think to themselves, maybe this guy, maybe there's a fine line between persistence and not getting the point. They might just be more concerned about you spending your time well. If you happen to be testing, all over the map, and one time your verbal is high, and the next time your quant is high, and you can never put together the right day, and finally, you nail it the 4th time around. Fantastic. I think you have to know yourself. Again, the schools are very opportunistic. They want to have the highest average to report to Business Week, to the U.S. News and World Report, the Financial Times, and so they're going to look at your top score, and generally, you sort of can't go wrong. But the other thing is, I wouldn't worry about about just you got to also think to yourself, what are the incremental gains? Are they worth my time? We have an individual absolutely determined to get over, a remarkable candidate, absolutely determined to get over, to get a 700. He had a 690. He spent months, admittedly against our wishes, studying. He got a 700, even up 10 points. The GMAT only goes up in increments of 10. So really, he got a score of 1 point. When you think about it, was it worth it? In our opinion, no. So, you have to balance that. What are your actual goals?
Great, thank you, Jeremy. So this next question addresses a concern that many folks who are international candidates, that is, folks applying from outside of the United States to get into U.S. business schools have, which is, do you have any recommendations for adjusting your strategy if you come from a competitive demographic? Maybe an example of that would be from China or from India. Are there things that you should be emphasizing more, like test scores or career progress? Any thoughts on that, Jeremy?
Right. I mean, no. I have thoughts on it. No, there isn't sort of the one thing that you can focus on. And if you think about today's program, we're really talking about creating a comprehensive and individualistic profile. And so, I can't say to you, hey, overrepresented candidate, focus more on your GMAT. What I can say to you is, really, and in some ways, actually, maybe for some candidates, it's almost give up on that. I mean, it depends where you are, where you are in terms of your scores. But it's remember the quantitative aspect of your profile, that the schools, most people meet that. It's the other stuff that will enable you to separate yourself. So, easier said than done, but distinguishing yourself professionally, in your community, personally, like we said, through anything from athletic endeavor to an entrepreneurial endeavor, these are the things, having a story to tell is really important, and that's why you're here today. So just take those words to heart and then commit yourself to things that are important to you, and hopefully the story will evolve naturally. My silly example about the old folks home, you just can't go and say, okay, my story is going to happen. But those are the little things that make a difference for you. You're gonna have that opportunity to tell an interesting anecdote that reveals your character.
Jeremy, a couple of people asked that you expound upon a point that you made during your presentation about rankings. How should candidates use rankings to guide school selection?
I mean, I think, I always sort of, bear with me here. I always rhetorically ask people, why aren't you living in Iceland when they talk about rankings? Because Iceland was the #1 place in the world to live, as ranked by the United Nations for several years in a row. And it's not to sort of laugh at Iceland's misfortune, but I'm sure as many of you guys know, Iceland's economy imploded with the financial bust. And it's two or three points I would take from that. One is rankings are only as good as the day they come out, I guess. And two is that you have to say to yourself, what is being measured? What is important to me? Is the ranking of Iceland as the #1 country in the world according to the United Nations enough to get you up and move your family and whatever it is? And so to me, I just find it funny at times that the margins of difference in these rankings, one school is ranked at 99.6 out of 100, and the other one is ranked at 99.5 out of 100, and suddenly people are making enormous life decisions based on 0.1 of a decimal point that relates to how many publications a professor has that you're never going to read that publication. So I think look at the rankings, take a look at them with a grain of salt, and say, okay, I want to get, if I'm totally new to this process, I want to get a sense of where some of these schools, consistently place. I can get a bit of a sense if a school is consistently in the top 10 or top 15. I kind of have a sense of them being regarded as a quality institution. But then go and do your homework. Go and visit. Go and talk to their alumni, their students. The schools will arrange that for you. Try to make sure that it all checks out. Make sure it has the resources for you, and so use it as a very simple starting point, but definitely not an end point. Rankings come and go. I'll leave it at that. Eric has just typed to me that he's got a few more questions. I'm more than happy to take them. I'm happy to stick around for as long as necessary.
Thank you so much, Jeremy. Yeah, we just have so many good questions coming in, and definitely some points that I hope that we can address over the next couple of minutes here. Appreciate the extra time. This next question is more tactical, but I think a useful one to talk about more, which is if you're trying to take supplemental courses to maybe offset a low GPA or GMAT score, is it recommended that you take those supplemental courses at a real college, or is going to a community college okay?
It's a great question. Basically, you don't need to go to if you went to Columbia, you don't need to go to Columbia and take an accounting class. The schools are not there evaluating your institution. They recognize that an intro accounting class is somewhat of a commodity. And so, if there are lots of institutions that you can go to, if a community college is in your neighborhood and is easiest for you, we've definitely seen lots of candidates do that. I think if there is another college that's available, we probably have a slight bias towards that. But if it really is your only choice, it's not like the school's going to say, forget it. They definitely understand that in an accounting class you're learning certain fundamentals at a community college.
So you started this presentation, Jeremy, covering a couple of common admissions myths. And just to remind folks, Jeremy does have a very long and and cool series on admissions myths on Beat the GMAT. You can search for it in our GMAT and MBA library. But here's a myth that we want to have debunked by you, Jeremy. And this is one that has been causing some fear in our community, which is, are candidates getting younger? Is this a trend that you are seeing? And if so, why are schools accepting younger candidates?
Right. This is a great question, and it's a myth I love to debunk. I might have written something on this on your site. I can't recall. But if anything, over the years, the schools were biased against younger candidates. Before, it used to be that you couldn't apply if you didn't have, you needed 2 or 3 years of work experience minimum for the schools to look at you. And over the years, in fact, the schools have actually become, open-minded about younger candidates, saying, like, why are we discounting young people who have amazing entrepreneurial experience or tremendous leadership experience, etc. So the schools, if they're getting a little bit younger, are getting there because they're finally being open-minded about the younger candidates. Now, I went and visited with Julia Poulter Harvard, and she said to me, I would run across the street for a senior manager who has operations and manufacturing experience. She said, we just don't get those types of people, and people think that you have to be 30 is a cutoff or something like that. And she's like, I would love someone who had tremendous experience in manufacturing and operations. The truth is, if you're in an ultra-competitive environment, it probably got a little bit tougher for you. If you're the 5th-year consultant and there's a 3rd-year consultant with a pretty similar program, it might have gotten a little bit tougher for you. But they're not making decisions based on age. A common joke for us has often been, okay, so what are you going to do? Are you going to change your birth certificate? Like, your options are very minimal, and so you can decide that you're not going to apply because you believe the admissions committee is hostile to someone your age, or you can let them decide, and it's a part of your candidacy you really can't do much about. So I think it's probably overdone. There is something to it when you're kind of in the middle, like I said. But there isn't an age cutoff where the school's saying, okay, forget it, we're not taking anyone who's 26 and up anymore. And again, averages, the nature of an average, such that some people are below that age average and some people are above it.
So this next question, Jeremy, that I have kind of bums me out because I realize they now fit in this category. Older candidates. So folks who have 8 to 10 years of work experience. Do you have any thoughts in terms of what older candidates should do to adjust their strategy to reflect, I guess, their advanced experience? Is it, or is it just stay the course with the strategy you outlined in your presentation?
I mean, I think older candidates might be a little bit of a burden on them to take it head on and kind of explain that. Yeah, I think your story will naturally suggest this, but to say implicitly, this is not. I'm not some guy who's been floundering in my career and is looking for some miracle career restart. I mean, I think your resume will probably make that impression. But I'm a guy who make this impression. You prefer to make the impression that says I'm a guy who has just been doing some interesting and exciting things his whole career and just hasn't had the opportunity to jump off the treadmill. I've just been there's always been something coming, and I've been running as fast as I can, and now I can finally take that time off and study for something that's important to me. You might want to look at, it depends who you are, and you might want to take advantage of our free consultation and talk to us. There are executive programs out there at a certain point that might be more realistic for you, but if you can create a strong story for that full-time MBA program, there are individuals who have many years of work experience, and I believe it was MIT last year who graduated someone in his 60s. So debunk that myth, MIT. Thank you.
Wow. So for those of you who joined us halfway into this presentation, we're speaking with Jeremy Scheinwald, who's the founder of MBA Mission. and he's answering your questions right now about MBA admissions and planning your strategy for this year. And we have actually time for just 2 more questions, Jeremy. And this next one has to do with one of your slides where you mentioned going the extra mile and visiting campuses. So the moment you started talking about that point, a number of questions flooded in saying, well, what if I can't visit a campus? Is that actually a negative?
Well, visiting a campus is hopefully something that you can do, if it's convenient for you. If you're living in New York and you want to go to NYU and you haven't visited that campus, that's going to be a problem for you. If you, are living halfway around the world, the schools will definitely understand if you can't make it to campus. However, there are lots and lots of opportunities to learn about your target programs. And again, there are ambassadorial programs. Most schools, have a program where you will be able to, to sign up, to chat with a student and gain some a priori experience. There are podcasts, there are live broadcasts. There are so many opportunities for you to engage the school, and the key is that you learn about the school and are able to show that the school is a bridge for you. I am in point A. I want to get here in my career. I need this education in order to get there. I need the resources you have. I understand that you possess those resources. That is the message you want to send. And if you can't get to that granular level where you've identified their resources, you haven't done enough. So visiting a campus is a great way to do that. But if you can't make it to visit, that's okay. Just make sure you found another way. And the further away you live, and the more onerous it is on your budget, the more the schools will understand.
So, Jeremy, we have time for just one last question. And for this one, I want to call out one attendee today, Ella, because I'm very impressed. She had a question about really, really long-term planning. So she wants to apply to business school in 2013, which is 2 years out. And her question was about essays. So do essays change much from year to year, is the part 1 of her question. And next, if I plan to apply in 2013, are there things I can do to plan for those school essays even now?
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Impressive indeed. It's funny. Eric, you scooped me. I usually start by commending the audience on starting early, and I forgot. I'm glad that you mentioned that. It's great that people are starting early, and Ella in particular. Well done. I'm glad you're here. If Eric can get me your email address, we'll actually send you a book that has a long-term planning section in it. You certainly deserve it. So we'll send you our complete start to finish guide. Again, I wouldn't. So the essays do change from year to year at a lot of schools. They don't always change, but they frequently change or get tweaked a little bit. But you don't want to sort of design your profile in order to match essays. You want to think broadly about who you are as an individual, what motivates you, and then do those things. You might keep it in the back of your head that Harvard has had a 3 accomplishments essay for, I don't know, probably 2 decades, maybe even more, and that you have to, you might start, keep a little running brainstorming list of the things you want to do, the things you'd like to talk about, but, you shouldn't live your life to, try and accomplish something to write a paragraph about for Harvard. But good for you. That's amazing. I'm really impressed, and we'd love to give you a little bit of encouragement along the way via a book.
Jeremy, just one last question coming in. A couple of people asked, actually, what's the name of your long-term planning book?
Oh, so it's a chapter within the Complete Start to Finish MBA Admissions Guide. And that's a book that I wrote. It's published. It's available on Amazon.com. It's available on our website in a PDF format, but if you want the slightly nicer aesthetic or the physical copy, you can order it through Manhattan GMAT's site or through Amazon.com. And everyone who takes a Manhattan GMAT class gets that book for free, and also gets an MBA Mission Insider's Guide, which is like a usually a 60 to 80 page book on your target schools and on some of those resources that I was mentioning today. You want to get to a granular level. we have our insider's guides, which will enable you to really truncate your research and enable you to learn a lot about your target schools in a short period of time. And the last thing I'd say, I'm sorry to interrupt, Eric, but we do these presentations frequently. We do other presentations. We do one on essay writing. We do one on school selection. We do one on interviewing. We have a whole bunch of them. We love to to offer our knowledge to the community as a way to engender trust in ourselves and our services. And so please join us again. We're happy to do one with Beat the GMAT, and you can find a full schedule on our website as well. We do the occasional one on our own as well. Thanks so much, guys.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy, for spending time with us this evening to talk about our long-term planning for our MBA admissions, and for sticking around with extra time as well to answer our questions. Just a couple of closing comments. Again, if you're interested in speaking to Jeremy and his team at MBA Mission, they do offer a free consultation. I'm looking at their website right now. It's mbamission.com/consult.php. And you can go there and fill out some information about yourself and get a free 30 minutes with their team. Additionally, I want to just note that for today's recording, we will have it available most likely within the next 24 hours. And we'll reach out to you guys in an email about where you can see this recording so you can refer to it later. Jeremy, thank you again.